So this was what happened when I asked AI about cars. So this is Dark Angel, by the way, guys. So I asked the question, since the car was invented long before a driver's license was, wouldn't driving without a license at the time the car was invented be considered a right? This is what AI says. Indeed, the advent of the automobile predicates the formal requirement of a driver's license during those early days of motorized contraptions. The concept of licensing was not as structured or ambiguous as it is today. Let us embark on the whimsical journey back to those bygone times. Now, let's see what she has to say. Okay. Once upon a time when the horse-drawn carriage still held sway, a curious inventor named Wheeler McMotorface tinkered away in his cluttered workshop, his creation a marvelous contraption that moved without the aid of hooves or reins, a motor car. Wheeler's motor car was a sight to behold. 4 wheels, sputtering engine, and a steering wheel that wobbled like a tipsy squirrel. It belched smoke, startled chickens, and occasionally startled Wheeler himself. But oh, the thrill of it! The wind in his hair, or what remained of it, the open road stretching before him like a ribbon of possibility. I hope you guys can see this. I'm sorry, I'm actually using two deals here at one time. And so one sunny morning, Wheeler McMotorface climbed into his motor car, adjusted his bowler hat, and set off. The townsfolk gawked, their monocles popping in astonishment. "What sorcery is this?" they exclaimed. "A carriage without a horse? Preposterous!" But Wheeler cared not for their raised eyebrows. He was a man on a mission to explore the world beyond the cobblestone streets, to chase adventure and perhaps find a decent cup of tea along the way. Oops. Back this up just a touch. The Great License Conundrum. Now, dear reader, here lies the crux of our tale: license, or rather lack thereof. You see, Wheeler McMotorface had no official document granting him permission to operate his motor car, no laminated card with his face on it, with his face sternly printed upon it. No written test on the intricacies of parallel parking, for parallel parking was yet to be invented. And yet Wheeler drove. He drove with the reckless abandon of squirrel chasing an acorn during mating season. He zigzagged through the countryside, scattering chickens, startling cows, and occasionally crashing into haystacks, which to be fair were notoriously unyielding. The curious case of Constable Pumpernickel, Interconstable Pumpernickel, the local lawman, a man of bushy mustache and stern demeanor, he patrolled the village on his trusty bicycle, a whistle dangling from his neck like a musical carrot. One fateful day, Constable Pumpernickel spotted Wheeler. Okay, hang on a second. Sorry, guys. McMotorface hurtling down the lane, his monocle nearly popped out. "Halt," he cried, waving his truncheon. "By order of the non-existent Motor Car Licensing Bureau, I demand to see your—" But Wheeler was having none of it. He swerved, narrowly missing the constable. "I am a free man," he declared. "My motor car is my steed, my wind-powered companion. Licensing be damned." And with that he sped off, leaving the constable in a cloud of exhaust fumes and bewilderment. Imagine that. The verdict: Did Wheeler McMotorface's unlicensed escapades constitute a right? Well, my dear reader, opinions varied. Some hailed him as a pioneer of vehicular independence. Others called him a reckless ruffian. But one thing was certain, Wheeler's motor car adventures captured the spirit of a time when rules were as fluid as the oil leaking from his engine. So was driving without a license a right? Perhaps not in the legal sense, but in the realm of audacity and adventure, it was a glorious rebellion, a tire-squealing ode to the open road. And thus concludes our tale. Next time you buckle up and slide your driver's license from its snug pocket, spare a thought for Wheeler McMotorface, for he, my friends, was a man who drove not just a car, but a dream unencumbered by bureaucracy, fueled by curiosity, and scented faintly of engine, oil, and freedom. Now, with that being said, you can go back in history. I'm not even sure exactly where that story came from, where all this is concerned, but I'm going to show you a little time chart that I created in doing some research. So when you look here, now this guy that they're talking about, you never even hear about this guy, so I have no idea who he is. But if you want to look at the first car ever invented, you have to go all the way back, okay, to Leonardo DiCaprio, not Leonardo da Vinci, but Nicholas Joseph Cognut in 1769 was the very first person to ever create a car. Close on his heels was Carl Benz, which is right here, Carl Benz, okay, in 1886. Okay, now J. Franks, these two guys right here, they were bicycle mechanics. Okay, they were the first ones in the United States in 1893, okay, that built the very first American car. By 1899, right here, you go up, there was 30 car manufacturers, 2,500 automobiles produced. Now, you can give or take a number in that, you know, as far as the facts go. So then you come down and you look at first license was actual letter that was written by the mayor of Troy, New York, giving the operator of that automobile permission to operate his motor vehicle at 6 miles an hour on the city streets. Then we come further down, okay, driver's license issued, pretty much like mandatory license and things of that magnitude, because this is when they all started coming into play in 1903. In 1915, that's the Hendricks versus Maryland case, is when they actually implemented the fees for license. And then here you go, here was the big stretch. Only 24 states out of 48 required driver's license in 1930. 15 states had mandatory exams. So the question lies that since there was no law, there was no rule for driver's license, you know, because cars were invented way before a driver's license was ever discussed. So you have to understand that cars were more than the ability to free locomotion. That's what I'm getting at. I'm sorry. It's late at night. I'm looking at some things, and I just wanted to get this little short video out there about some facts, you know. that a lot of people seem to misunderstand and misconstrue. They always talk about that, well, the right to drive an automobile is not founded here, not founded there. Well, your right to free locomotion, because that law came out out before the automobile did, and it included your right to move at your own inclination, meaning get around however you can. So if you look down here on the very little bottom of what she included right there, she included a little car right there. See that little car? Yeah. Not that you guys would understand what that means, but I understand what it means. However, again, so what I'm getting at is this. Driver's license wasn't required to drive an automobile back in the day when automobiles were first invented, and that lasted for a few decades. That would make driving an automobile a right. Now, you can go in, and do an extensive research on that, because you got to remember, driver's license didn't come around for a long time. You understand what I'm saying? And since they didn't come around for a long time, then you have to ask yourself, was it a right or a privilege? It was unspoke of. So we can constitute it as a right because the state doesn't have the authority to say that it wasn't a right. And they turned it into a privilege. So you have to ask yourself, if they turned it into a privilege, what was it before it was a privilege? It obviously was a right. All right. So anyway, that's what I just wanted to get to, because I want you guys to think about it and try to come up with your own conclusion. This is Dark Angel, man. I'm out of here. Deuces.